Well, hello. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Brad Lee, and I'm an Adobe certified expert, prior certified instructor, Macromedia certified professional, obviously a software engineer. I'm a Berkeley grad, music. I have a strong background in sales and marketing, having worked for Billboard and many other places. And I'm a dad. So what I would suggest, the reason I'll get to why I'm mentioning this, but I'd suggest checking out linkedin.com/in/Brad Lee. And then you can get a better, clearer picture about the many chapters in my book. Now the reason I'm mentioning that is obviously the reason we're here today. I have a concept, an idea that we're running through Kickstarter and see if this happens. And I would be the one building it, so you certainly have to believe in me that I could do so. So you'll see that there's many chapters in my book. I've been around. I'm obviously not a little kid. And there's a lot of folks over the years that have trusted me. So I'm here today with hopes that you will as well, if you believe in this as much as I do. So kind of, I don't know, I hate to kind of shine a light on how long I've been thinking about this, but I think it goes back to like even the earlier or mid-90s. Years back I used to play in bands, largely in weddings, which is a pretty common thing in the New England area anyway. And some of them I ran. So back then I used a tool called Paradox, I think. And it wasn't as much the users, the other members of the band saw it. It was a tool to help me facilitate sharing with others what's the next step. What are we learning? What key, in that particular case. So fast forward to the early 2000s. As I mentioned, I'm a dad, and our kids are all grown now. But we went through that whole thing with youth sports and youth music. So having kind of that insight into how that all ticks. Well, in the early to mid 2000s, I was recommended from a friend, another parent, and thankfully they did recommend me, and I did it. I managed my son's club soccer team for about 5 or 6 years. It was a great experience. A lot of work, but it was very rewarding. And you see the kids grow, when they're young to young adults to adults, and now they're all grown, and I think all of them went on to college, and all you hear about is good stuff. So that was a great experience, and it was great for me too, and I learned a lot along the way. And one of the things I think I have a gift at is the ability to communicate, to manage, to keep everyone on the same page, and I suppose that's probably why I do so well with software also. So the concept here is to have a tool that would allow us to communicate, keep everyone on the same page. And while many of you might say, well, there's things like LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and what have you out there now, this would be very, very specific. There are two POCs, proof of concept, URLs. One is managedteam.info and one is managedband.info. And there are mobile versions of them as well. So this is a Samsung's Galaxy Note 2 there, and you'll see the user interface for, I think this is managedteam.info. There's one for weblead.net and there's one for managedband.info. And you'll see one of the key links is next. So to me, when I was managing, that was usually it. When you really want to run a team, especially when their minds are kind of somewhere else. That's why they're on the field and you're not. That's their thing. But your job is to make sure, all right, you know where you have to be next and what you have to have, and then if there's things you need from the parents. So paperwork, whether it be a certain type of birth certificate or the documentation for a tournament, or some people are going to fly to this particular location, so what airline are we using, or so forth and so on. That's all good stuff. It's all important. It's really important to succinctly share that with each other. Well, things are different now. I mean, you look at stuff like smartphones, and everybody's kind of, it's attached to them now, including me. I live by it. I can't get over how much I use this thing. I love it. And the pictures you'll see in some of the images that might be behind me or what have you on the websites, that was an HTC Thunderbolt. I had that before this. And so I'm obviously an Android guy, but our family is split. Some of us have iPhone. There would be a mobile version of this app that would be built as part of this project and would be completed at the same time. At the moment, the focus is for it to just be Android and iOS. So Apple and Android. If I got enough people yelling at me, I suppose we might do BlackBerry, what have you. So I guess with Kickstarter, there are means with which those that sponsor, which I hope you'll consider, have a methodology within Kickstarter to communicate to those that are the creative team, if you will, and collaborate, and obviously that's me here. So everything that would be done with the web-based interface for administrators, as well as the mobile apps for browsing and the mobile applications for installing on the phones, would all be built by me. But this is not a small project, so it's really important to be clear that it's not going to happen quickly. To do it right, it's going to take time. Now, some of it's been built because I've been working on it on the side forever. And hold that thought for a minute. So I would envision that worst case, I was always thinking it would take a year if you dedicated literally every waking hour to doing it. And then going through the communication that folks like yourself, if you were to pledge and you'd have an idea and you say, Brad, I wish you did this. Well, many of those ideas probably will happen, and many of them I probably already thought of. And then if there's another idea that you thought of that I haven't, then I think it would only be fair that you got credit for it. If you want it, we could put it in the footer, concept by, Joe Schmo from East Ubangi, I don't know. So in terms of the functionality, pretty much whatever you can think of, from chatting to emailing individuals to different team members. You've got a game coming up tomorrow, and you know that John, that you used to be on a team with 2 years ago, is going to be on the other team that you're playing against. And you know that they're switching him up. He's not playing in the same position. That kind of stuff. And so you could get on and talk smack with him. I don't know, that could be something that also gets blocked. But it's the idea that, similar to Facebook and LinkedIn, where both parties on both sides of the fence have to agree when someone suggests linking in or someone suggests being friends. But someone can also stop that, and that's the way that this would work too. So let's see, technically this would be, I'm largely an Adobe Stack guy, so as I mentioned, I used to teach for them years ago, and so the front end would be the typical HTML5 and CSS3, which everything's going that way, and we'd also employ jQuery as a JavaScript library. The back end, the database, would be Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 plus, so probably heading towards 2012. The middle tier, the server-side scripting language, similar to like .NET, PHP, and Java, we would be employing Cold Fusion, or I would be, because that's something that I'm kind of a rock star in, where the other ones I'm not as strong in. So that would be faster to market. Let's see, in terms of the database, since I mentioned that, one of my concepts in building software that I'm a firm believer in is that the database is the foundation of the house. Without a strong foundation, how could you ever have a strong house? It's like the Three Little Pigs, So it is important to think that through very, very well, so things don't creep up and kind of stub your toes later. So in other words, I've already planned ahead for localization in terms of this being worldwide. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what language. So in terms of currency, that would convert too. We'll get to the prices and so forth and so on in a moment. But so that's been designed extremely well. There's still a few little tweaks that are occurring now, and I'm sure there will continually be changes down the road. But the basic essence of it is it's built by best practice, extremely well thought out, and should be fine under load, very flexible. So the idea with this is it's built that it should not matter how many people are on. And if it gets to that point, that'll be a wonderful problem to have, where we have to get more servers. So in terms of, let's see, there'll be a mobile aspect of this where you could, the whole geolocation is important in terms of where do we have to be and when, what's the latitude and longitude crosshairs, directions. When you get on the mobile version of this, you probably would see an error for this particular screen, whether it be managedteam.info, managedband.info, or weblead.net, because one of my Google key, like everything, they're monetizing something that used to be free, and that would get dealt with if this were to materialize. Obviously that would be addressed. Just wanted to give you a heads up that you would see that. It also does require a login, but the logins that I will share with you, probably behind me on the screen, for guests, as you might imagine, as a guest you don't see that much, and then of course there's different levels, whether it be band or team depending on the app. and then there's administrative, and then there's sysadmin, which would be someone like myself. So in terms of adding a country or something, that's kind of top tier. But in terms of adding a title or a surname or something like that, I mean, that would be fine. In terms of a titled role, if you would, those things that could be ubiquitous for any team or any band, or they could be specific to yours. And that's really a rather mundane point. But I think the thing that just makes it powerful is that the only focus for either of them would be strictly that: youth, team sports, youth, band, orchestra, music. And that would allow for, the parents to be, more of a part of it. The coaches and the managers to be able to do what they do perhaps a little better with some, a little more tools at their fingertips. And I think the big one is mobile, just being able to do most of what you got to do with this guy. This is really going to be key. And while there are tools out there now, I would just argue that they're kind of hacks. I mean, I've seen them. I've been on them. I think I've seen maybe one or two that were kind of cool and well built. But for the most part, you're taking a square peg and trying to stick it in a round hole. That's what you're doing. This would be specifically built for this. That's it, period. That's what it's doing. I mean, I suppose older semi-pro and pro NCAA could use it, but it's mainly the younger groups, I think, that would really benefit. So anyway, that's the long and the short of it. The idea would be that a team or a band would be $50 per year as a subscription, if you would. And then on the 1-year anniversary, that would renew. And then for the downloads, the typical 99 cents, although I hate that, it'd probably be $1, for a download. And that allows you to get all the upgrades for free. Now, if you pledge the $50 to support this, then by doing that, the benefits are exponential. Your son or daughter's team or band, whatever they happen to be in forever moving forward, because there's only one of them, so if they switch a team, then that team would benefit for that year. So in other words, moving forward, you would get a discount. So on the anniversary, as long as one member of that band or that team is a member of managedteam.info or managedband.info, you'd get a 50% discount. So when you renew, you'd get a voucher, and I'm not guaranteeing it'll be $50 forever, but the discount would be 50%. And I think that's fair, because without you, this wouldn't happen. It literally wouldn't happen. Look at how long I've been thinking about it, and I really still believe in it. So there must be something good about it for that to be going on that long. So if it were to happen, you'd get that discount, as well as the mobile downloads for every member of that team or that band, where they would normally be $1 at this point, they'd be 50% off, so it'd be 50 cents. And then it's just important you use it, and then there would be ability for you to give me feedback, in terms of future features that you really wish were there, or if something isn't working perfectly and you wish it behaved this way instead of that way. That's the kind of stuff that's mission critical, extremely valuable, and very, very welcome. I guess that's it. The idea for expectations would be the quickest it would be done is 9 months, but I guess there's a 60-day window with which we are allowed to request for pledges and fundraising, and if we hit our goal, then it's off to the races. From that point onward, you could register at that point, log in, start using it in its current state, whatever that happened to be, and just understanding that in the first year things could break. That's the whole idea. We try not to, but that's always a possibility. But you're part of the process then. That's what's kind of cool. You're using it, but if there is an issue, the idea is you just share that with me and then it gets addressed. And then the closing date in terms of being completed would be no earlier than 9 months, I envision. Worst case, 12 months. And then that would be, the initial phase to market, V1, of which after that I'm sure that it will be continually upgraded and there'll be many versions after that. And I'm not going to kind of forecast what that is because I have no clue. But wouldn't it be wonderful if it did become a reality and you're using it, and then years from now, your U8, your U10 child at this point, now they're heading off to college. And the cool thing is that info, that data, that stats and history of all of that track record is there. From the birth date moving on upward. Now they're a junior or they're a senior in high school and they're getting ready to go off to college. And you know what? They are good enough, they may actually be able to earn an athletic scholarship or music scholarship. That's cool. And being able to print out those profiles in a PDF or show them to the recruiter at the field in some other state, just on the phone, that's kind of cool to be able to do that. Or, with Bump or whatever, you can actually transmit that data if you wish to go that route. I see that as a long-term, really big win-win-win for this thing. And then the ability to just be able to collaborate amongst other coaches, amongst other managers, amongst other parents. I see that as a real big value. So if you do, I guess what I'm asking for is your support. If you think it's a cool idea and it's worth the risk of $50, which doesn't really stick your neck out too far, but if we get enough people doing that, then this thing would actually finally happen before I'm too old to make it happen. So thanks for listening to my blurb for so long at this point. I think it's really cool that Kickstarter to be doing what they're doing, and I'm just really thankful to have the opportunity to present this to you. Whether or not it should happen, it's kind of like at that milestone for me that I just want to pitch it. If I may be a little bit too late, there are some others out there, but I think the big plus to me that still makes this make sense in my head is that it's specifically to these particular areas. And I think that's what really separates this. And then anything that's specifically needed to facilitate the managing and coaching and running of a sports team, a youth sports team, or a youth band, orchestra, musical organization, that would be what is added into this. Now, whether every single piece of the puzzle is plugged into V1, probably not. But over time, the potential's there because that is the focus. There's nothing to clutter the mind. That is the aim. It's very targeted. So if you believe in it, I request your pledge of $50, and I really appreciate your time. If you think it's a cool idea, please share it with your friends, family, and we'll see if we can together make this happen. Thanks again. You have a great day. Peace.